Welcome to this week's edition of The Paint Box. I'm Jane Roy, and I'm here with Al Stewart, one of the owners of the Westland Gallery in Wortley Village. I've known Al for 5, 6, 7 years or so. Al has been incredibly supportive of my artistic journey. I definitely wouldn't be where I am today without someone like Al. But
you would so. Yes, you would.
But we were just chatting about, well, what do you want to talk about? So we're just gonna have a conversation and see where it kind of goes. So let's first start with the fact that 2023 was your 10th year anniversary.
Yeah, for Westland Gallery.
For Westland Gallery.
But I've had the art exchange for 26 years.
Yeah, and so the art exchange is down the street?
Yes, 3 blocks south of the Westland Gallery.
Yeah, so...
Yes, he was here 62 years, and he approached me and said, I want this to be an art gallery, and I want you to make it one. So,
wow. And so there's a chair downstairs with his hat, kind of in honor of him. But so he approached you because you had the art exchange.
Yes.
And that's, was that something you always wanted to do?
The art exchange?
Run the art gallery.
I have to know, it was all done out of necessity. Okay. I became a single dad 26 years ago, and I needed a home-based business where I could raise my kids.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, so I was a superintendent for a construction company and gone all the time. And when my marriage fell apart, I had a 4 and a 5-year-old, and I was told that I could keep my job and see my kids every other weekend, or I could find something that I could get my half of the time with the kids. And I collected art since high school. I like working with my hands. I've done some picture framing in the past, so I just thought, maybe this might work.
So you did the framing and you did the art exchange? I
did the framing and the art exchange. I started on Albert Street and did 5 years there. Within the first 2 years, I was doing posters and prints, just so I had something to frame. And then artists started showing up at my door. Hey, you've got walls and you got art. Want to show some of my stuff? And I thought, oh, I don't know. So it was trial by fire. We got started that way. Did 3 years of posters, prints, and some original art there. Yeah. Bought the building and down at the art exchange here in Wortley Village. Yeah. And turned it into just fine art and framing.
Okay. And so fine art, has become your love. In many ways. So 10 years, what are some of the biggest successes isn't the question I'm meaning to ask, but what are some of the highlights or when you look back at 10 years, what are you most proud of?
I think the relationships I built, the friends I made, like the people like Eric Atkinson, or you, I mean, holy smokes, watching
oh my goodness. I'm going to cut this part out, by the way.
No, but honestly, it's that. It's like watching people that they'll put work on the wall. In the square foot show, they'll put work on the wall. All of a sudden it sells. Next thing I know, 3 years later, they've come in and said, I'm painting full time now because I sold my first piece at the square foot show and it's given me inspiration to do it. I didn't have the confidence, now I do. And they move forward. And it's watching these careers develop over the last 25 years, starting with people that have been Sunday painters to people that are like full-time, really good painters. And we've had the opportunity to watch that happen and be part of it. And I'm pretty proud of that.
Yeah. And in many ways, so there's the public gallery system, which tends to be like the museums, the government, and, Macintosh or the London Regional Art Gallery. And then obviously the private galleries, which is this. So, but you're kind of at that intersection between people who want to put art on their walls and the artists, and so you've got relationships kind of both ways.
Yes.
But what's the biggest challenge with that?
Sometimes we get accused of just decorating. Yeah. And I understand that's a bit of a concern, but it's also really important. I mean, the people that are decorating with art are generally have some money, and they've got some friends who have money, and they've got some great collections. So we tend to decorate a little bit we work with designers who are really art savvy. They know what is good and they know what a collection should look like, and they can put a really well edited collection together that just makes it like it helps when an artist is in a good collection. Yeah. And that's...
Well, and we tend to forget historically that's actually how some of the artists we've grown to love were supported, but also, private buyers came and put their work on the wall, and whether it was it's Dr. McCallum, I can't remember his name, for the group of 7 gentlemen who supported and, purchased things, or whether it's, some of the gallery owners with the impressionists we love. Like that relationship is really, really important to
Very
artists.
important.
Yeah,
Oh, yes.
for sure.
Yeah. And then you get people that they're just new in the art world. They're just new buyers. They come in. We deal generally with mid-career artists, things that are somewhat affordable, generally under $5,000, and it allows people to get into the art market.
Yeah.
And honestly, once they put an original piece in a room full of posters, they go, this doesn't look right. And then the posters just start to disappear, and the real art shows up, and there's a real appreciation for what you people do. Like, you artists are spectacular.
I don't know. We're in the midst of some spectacular work we'll talk a little bit about. But that, as someone who is actually presenting that to, let's say, someone who doesn't have the same kind of appreciation, how do you talk with them to kind of get that appreciation going with regards to, like, the general public? For instance, there may be some pieces. So when the National Gallery purchased the Ring of Fire, or
Voice of Fire.
Sorry, what's it called?
Is it the Voice of Fire?
Voice of Fire. Sorry, I apologize. When they purchased and they spent $1,000s of dollars on the Voice of Fire, the public was going, I could do that. Anybody could do that.
No, you can't. Stand and look at it.
It should be, well, in part because it looks simple, though it's not. But how do you help people appreciate? And how should I say this? Oftentimes I come in and I don't know what's good and what's not. So I would look at you to tell me, what's.
It's very subjective. Like, it's a lot has to do with personal taste, what you like, and then if there's something that you like, then we try and point you towards what you like, but by people that are doing it well.
Yeah.
And I've always worked with people that have a fabulous, like, everybody that I worked with has a really strong art history degree, and they know all about art, and
they know the compositions, those kind of things.
And that's not my strong point. So I just know what I love. I've been collecting art since high school. I know I have a pretty good idea what's good and what's not. And if I have questions, I'll speak to people, the people I work with, or others that are my friends that are artists, that have been artists forever. They're more than willing to share their information.
Yeah.
So
we were talking a little bit about history, in London's history just before this got going, and we're in the midst of Eric Atkinson's pieces. And of course, so Eric Atkinson was
a good friend. For 20 years, we were, I felt he was one of my mentors. He's just someone who would critique my shows for me, and just he would do it. He was the most gentle person I ever met. I never heard a negative critique. Sometimes it'd be, if they had maybe tried something just a little different, they might have been able to do something better. But he was someone who, he knew that I needed an art education. And all these old fellas, they kind of know that. They when we first met, they all went, this guy's, he's got all the enthusiasm in the world, but maybe we need to teach him a little bit. So they did.
Well, yeah, but the enthusiasm was hugely important.
Oh, yeah.
And Eric was
he started the art department at Fanshawe College in 1969.
Yeah.
He brought in all kinds of artists from around the world to make that an international school. He was someone who just, he could have been an art star had he wanted to, but he wanted to be an educator. That was what gave him joy. So he went that route, and thankfully he went that route, because there are so many people that he has inspired, that he's helped through the years, like myself. I just could never thank him enough. He was just a lovely man.
So how do you balance emerging artists, space? I mean, there's only so much space and there's a lot more of people like me getting more and more involved in art, and more involved painting or doing visual art. And we maybe don't start off very well, but if we stick with it, we honestly do get better.
Oh, yeah.
So, and a community gallery and in a community place, you're part of the Wortley scene. How do you balance all of those things? And you got to stay alive, right? You got to be able to sell so that you can keep those doors open.
It's tricky. Emerging artists that's all. I did a lot of emerging artists when I first started, because I get kids from Beale. I would bring in Fanshawe students or Western or whatever, and we would work that route, but it was difficult to make a living like that. When I was just running the art exchange, it didn't matter that much because I had framing to fall back on, and the framing paid the bills. But once we opened this space, it became clear to me that we needed to figure out how to make money selling art. And that's when people like, I had Troy Ouellette who worked for me. Troy was working on his PhD in fine art, and Danielle, who when ours has come along, she did a degree at Waterloo. They know about art. They also are good salespeople. Danielle's learned to be an amazing sales representative, and she loves her artists. She loves what she does, and she's able to do it in a way that I wish I could do it. Money is not my friend, and I'm not a closer.
It's kind of like fundraising in charities. The fundraising isn't so much about getting people to donate. It's about all the work that goes into it, and then people come and they want to support. Yes. And if you put in that work, it happens. But now, times have changed. I mean, the digital space is out there. So before, it used to be an emerging artist might have to have a gallery. Now they can actually create their own little gallery in online.
Yep.
But does that enhance this experience?
It certainly makes people more aware. I don't know whether it enhances it. I mean, it makes it adds more competition to what we're doing. I mean, but everything does. Whenever there's a charity event, it's art auctions.
Yeah.
So we're competing with all of that, but it's also on the other side of the coin, it's making it more visual, and people are becoming more aware of the arts because of it.
Right, and in many ways, so maybe and it's kind of like the same thing with the charitable thing. Obviously, there's only so much to go around, but the more that people work together, or the more that it's talked about, you're kind of growing the audience. You're growing the love in terms of those things, particularly when there's a huge movement to like shop local, buy local. We could get prints up on the wall, all of those things, but when you actually know you're supporting a local business or individual artists, that makes a huge difference in terms of that.
But the other thing about the digital stuff is that also now we've got a worldwide market. And I mean, we ship stuff to the States, we ship stuff to Europe, and we ship stuff all around because we now have that worldwide market that we didn't have before. So there certainly is an upside to it. It's just I'm not tech savvy.
That's okay.
One of those people.
Well, but that's where you get people like Danielle, right? And always some of those other folks. So.
I'm a firm believer in hiring people that know what they're doing and do it well. And let them do it.
Yeah.
Just get out of their way.
Yeah. So historically, over time, the gallery has had, just generally, galleries have had great relationships with their artists. They're the ones that kind of promote them. Sometimes one of the things I've really appreciated about you is you're also an encourager. That artists can be fairly insecure folks.
A little bit, yeah.
In part because you're off creating work. And an artist generally, it's like, I never know when it's finished.
Isolated.
You're isolated, and you're. I don't know if it's good or not. I mean, I'm still learning in terms of those things. And the fact that someone like you or Danielle or Karen, I mean, all of those things, or any gallery owner, builds that relationship with the artist. It's actually it's about encouraging them as well, and just saying, keep at it. These are good.
Yeah.
So
Catherine Morrissey says my job is to be a cheerleader.
Yeah.
And I agree. I mean, honestly, if you see someone who has the enthusiasm and has just an inkling of talent, you know that they can develop the talent.
Yeah.
It's the enthusiasm that they need and the desire to do something better. And you're one of those people. And we've got a number of them. Honestly, there are a number of people that we've come and we've had relationships with over the years that have just gotten so much better. But they do, we have one that I think Lisa Johnson's one of my very best painters. And Lisa came in to drop off some work this week, and she's an insecure person when it comes to her work. I'm not sure if this is up to the stuff and blah, blah, blah. And Lisa, you know this. You do know, you got to know more about art than any of us do. And you know it's good. Just get yourself together and you can do this. You can.
it can be a tough thing.
Oh,
to be
I
honest, in terms of
understand.
those-
I get it. And
Yeah.
you're being criticized. I don't know about criticized, but you will have to take criticism from everyone.
Yep.
And you have to have fairly thick skin, because nobody likes the same thing ever. If I had a husband and wife that came in and agreed on something, those people are special in my life, because they never agree on art.
Yeah, as you say, art is a bit of that subjective experience.
Oh, it is so.
So can we, let's actually go to another room.
Sure.
Because, right now we are upstairs. We're at the Westland Gallery, downstairs of the gallery space. The main reason we're not downstairs is because the echo that's created, but we're in what's called the art apartment.
Yes.
Yeah. So let's go sit in another room. But before we do, we've got Eric Atkinson pieces behind us, which are like amazing and beautiful and inspiring. But they're good examples to me of when I came in the first few times and I saw some of the pieces, I didn't necessarily naturally respond to them.
Right.
Because of the palette and those things. But as I both got to learn about him, and as I spent more time with him, my appreciation and love for what he did, has just grown.
Oh, for sure.
It's and the more sometimes you learn about the artist and what they were and the choices they made and the voice that they had, it's amazing.
I agree. And I find the same thing. Abstract work isn't necessarily my favorite work, because I'm just not educated enough in it to know.
Yeah.
I have the people with me that are, but once I live with it for enough time, I really have an appreciation for it. But I have to sit in front of it for a while. So that's what I love about coming in here and hanging a show. I can sit by myself for
and enjoy them.
And try and figure out what's going on. And you just, like, pretty pictures are pretty pictures, but work that challenges you.
Yeah.
It takes time to figure out just what it is they're trying to say. And Ricky was someone that I have a pretty good idea where he's coming from, what he was doing. And
so Eric Atkinson's his nickname was Ricky?
All his friends called him Ricky.
Ricky.
Yes,
Oh, okay.
Yes, all his friends called him Ricky. And so he did work that was, most of it was based on the Bruce Peninsula. He had a son that had a cottage up there, and so he would go up and paint that. And I think he was born in England, near the water, and water is important to him. So
for sure.
Yeah.
Okay, let's go to a different room actually. So we'll kind of see some other spots, which is awesome. Okay. So now we're in a bit of a different room in the art apartment. We're upstairs. So Westland Gallery, downstairs is the gallery where you have the show.
Yes.
Up here, it's not a permanent collection as far as, but pieces will come up here. So it's the apartment.
Yes.
And downstairs, obviously presentation is important in terms of flow. Here you're trying to get as many of the artists as you can, correct?
Here I'm putting up work. This is the way I live my life. This is what my home looks like. So,
okay.
So I felt that, people will come and say, I don't have room for a large piece like that in my little place. Yeah, we'll go up there and have a look. Because we got some pretty big pieces up in a tiny little space. And I try and put as many of the artists I deal with up here, so at least there's one piece on the wall that we can start a conversation with.
Yeah, for sure.
And then we have others in inventory or online or whatever. We can take people out for studio tours. It's a place that they can come and see a whole selection, but also see a way of living life with art. I mean, this is truly how I live my life. And
oh, wow. Okay.
Yeah, it's my house is floor to ceiling. And
I mean, I do. This is very typical of an Old South apartment in terms of those things. And so it's, there's a chair if somebody wants to sit down and read books or whatever. Yes. But as we were talking before, sometimes sitting with a piece of art becomes really important.
Very important.
And just connecting with it.
Yeah.
So right now you've got a show with
Marcy Sadie and Johnny Madison.
Okay, perfect. Yeah, so we'll go downstairs and have a peek at it. December 6th to December
30th is the Square Foot Show.
The Square Foot Show, which of course is 400 pieces.
This year there's almost 500. I think last year we had almost 9, but we cut it back. Artists were allowed to put 3 pieces in. This year we're only accepting 2. Just trying to scale it back a little bit.
Right, and so artists have to be 12 foot by 12 foot. It's
12 inches by 12 inches. If they can bring it here.
Okay, 12 inches, square foot, 12 inches by 12 inches. Okay, and it's not a juried show, and to be juried means
just to be juried means that you'd sit with a committee looking at work and trying to decide whether or not it's appropriate for the show.
Yeah.
And we don't jury the shows. We try and accept everything that comes in, just because they're emerging artists, and sometimes it's their first crack at it.
Yeah,
so.
and as we say, it's really cool seeing a piece of your work up on a gallery wall. It's so encouraging. It's when you're little and your parent puts your piece of work on the fridge. Not that this is like a fridge, but
I still have it.
But it's you're really proud, and for many emerging artists, that's what actually keeps them going, keeps them encouraging.
And sometimes you're sitting next to a senior artist that you've admired for years, and you get your work sitting right next to it, and I think that really does something to someone. Really gives them hope.
So, kind of a community show in many ways, obviously, because you get a lot of community artists. So 500 pieces, you end up having to hang those all up on the wall. It takes you...
Actually, the hanging part's easy. We can hang it in a day. We can hang it in a day. It's all of the administration that it's months in advance.
Yep.
It's honestly, it's weeks and weeks after. I mean, Karen will have to write or pay 400 people.
Yeah.
So
it takes a
lot of time.
Yeah.
Yep.
Well, thank you for doing all that work. But you still have to hang it because that's still 400 pieces.
That's really the easy part.
Yeah, and I know the fact that they're square and 12 feet by 1 foot by 1 foot makes it easier, and you've done it so long. But at the same time, that's still a number of works. And for someone like me, that's actually kind of where it's not there I got the start, but a number of years ago when I was wanting to learn how to paint. I've never done it in oils, and I got a mentor and a bit of an instructor. That was the big goal, was to get a piece in the square foot show.
Yeah, thanks.
And it was great, and it was wonderful. And we talked about how it was accepted, it was exciting. You're coming for the opening, and you arrive at the Westland Gallery, and there's like 100 people, and it's like a can of sardines, and
they were hard.
But still still wonderful. What makes those kind of things difficult is obviously you can't always appreciate. You're kind of jostling with everybody.
No, you come to see each other.
Yeah, pretty much. But thank you for being a bit of that space. So can I ask you a few questions?
Sure.
So believe it or not, we actually filmed this part 15-20 minutes ago, but I forgot to turn the camera on, so we have to do it again. So normally some of these questions come a little bit unannounced, so we can change your answers. So what is art? Now you're going, what did I say? Would you like a different question?
No, that's fine.
Okay. So what is the purpose of art?
I think it's well, for artists, I think for you guys, it's probably a way to express yourself, and for a lot of them artist friends I have, it's therapy. I mean, they wear their heart on them, their brush, and they paint their troubles away, and I think that's really important for a lot of people. For the consumer, it's someone that, I mean, for us, we get a chance to look at it, and generally it certainly doesn't all make you happy, but most of the stuff I have will make you feel something, and that's very important. I think to be able to look at something and have it on your wall, and every day look at it and make you smile. I've got lots of those. And it's not just the art; it's the story behind it too, right?
Yeah. So sometimes I did visit an artist, a folk artist actually, most recently, and that's what it was. It was all about the story, which was really like. Oh,
I think they're fascinating.
Yeah, fascinating. Just you do tend to start appreciating the art a little more when you start knowing the artist, when you know the story. But also you might respond to something, but as you sit with it, it becomes deeper and deeper and deeper and much more meaningful. Yeah. What would be one of the biggest challenges that you've kind of faced, or problem isn't the word, but a challenge, something that you just. Ooh.
As I said, I think the thing that the hardest part about the whole thing is saying no to people. Right?
Yeah.
It's so when someone brings in something, we just don't have the space for it. There's a lot of artists that need to be able to get their work out there and don't have the ability to, or don't have a space to bring it to, and we have to say no because we book a year in advance. I have the place full, and I don't have room for some of these people, and having to say no to them is heartbreaking because you don't want to discourage them. So trying to find another place for them to go is, we certainly try, but it's very difficult.
So what would be the best piece of advice you would give to an emerging artist
Just keep trying.
In their relationship with a gallery? Just keep at it?
Keep at it. And honestly, don't do too many cold calls. Walking into a place cold we're busy and we don't always have time to just stop our day to see what you're doing. Send us a portfolio ahead of time online, reach out, see if you can set up an appointment, come and see us then. But we're always looking for new work and new artists. So
and so when you say keep trying, is that kind of keep trying different galleries or keep trying in terms of a relationship? So it's much like getting a job, right? And that's kind of what you're almost doing, is getting a job with.
But look into that gallery first. Like if you're creating something that gallery isn't going to be interested in, then what's the sense in knocking on their door? So find out about the gallery, figure out what they're trying to do, who their artists are, and if you think that you might fit into that space, then go for it.
And so do most galleries actually have a bit of a theme or something?
I don't know. It's I'm sure that the directors all have ideas they'd like to go to, but if I put everything up that I like, if it's just what I like, then I limit my market.
Right.
So I have to, as I said before, this is a democracy here. I let other people choose what we do, and then we sit together as a committee, or Danielle and I will sit together and decide what will work for us. And she has certain likes, and I have certain likes, and we'll try and make sure that everybody gets on the wall.
Yeah, and again, it's not just a like; it's an appreciation.
Yes.
It's, in terms of what's there. A gallery like this might not necessarily do. But you do have abstracts.
You've got
abstract, you've got landscape,
because Danielle loves abstract work. So Danielle leans that direction. I like figurative work. I like landscapes. So between the two of us, we can kind of make a fairly well-rounded collection, I think. But it's generally it's about the artists. I mean, we're looking for people that are that we can work with. And everybody that we work with are just grounded individuals that are. There's no divas. There's nobody with a personality.
I don't know.
There's a few. But I mean, honestly, on a whole, they're just good people. And artists are really interesting people. I mean, they're looking at the world in a different light, and I think that's fascinating. It's I love to be able to surround myself with people like that.
And so the final question, and it's so you end up at the pearly gates, and St. Peter's there, and saying, "Go, well done, oh good, faithful servant." It's kind of a different way of asking, what's success? What do you want to be most like? What's success to you? Like, what do you want to kind of end with?
I want to make sure that I lived a fairly happy life, and helped a few people along the way. Like, you certainly want to. I don't do it nearly what you do. You and Glenn are. Holy smokes! I do my little bit when it comes to careers and helping people with what they do. Artists have a particularly hard job. It's I think much more difficult than a lot of other trades or professions. And I want to be able to, if I've helped a few along the way, that's wonderful.
So in that sense, it's a service, right? Like, you're kind of encouraging, you're all of those things, which for me has been absolutely wonderful. But so thank you, Al. Thank you. Thanks for spending the time with me. Thank you for being incredibly encouraging as well.
Thanks for doing what you're doing.
So